Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series finale, maybe just season finale in general, for I'm the Evil Lord of an Intergalactic Empire. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode. So let's break it down. Obviously, the episode being kind of centered around family and just being this beautiful, well, everything coming full circle in a lot of ways and just being this beautiful send-off, I just think is great. First and foremost, I love this constant coming back to, first and foremost, the bar. Like that, we'd always had the bar be this kind of like territorial check-in of like how everything is prospering under Liam. And it's just, you see that the bar is no longer just like, we saw it get better and better over the series. It is now like a full class, like first class establishment now. And some of the characters we see interact, the lady who runs the bar and two of her clients, who are two of her customers. One's like, yo, I've got a company. Apparently he's in the process of like starting another company. And they're just talking about how Liam has kind of prospered. Like, oh, I always believed in Liam. They're like, really? Remember when you were complaining about like the lordship falling on a 5-year-old's shoulders? But it's like, oh, look at all we've accomplished. I mean, I even love the opening shot of it too. Like when we go down to the planet and we see like there's a highway system. It looks like super like futuristic. Like the city's really kind of advanced a lot in a time frame, and it's just all under the prosperity that this facility's had. So. Then I love like running the gambit of like, okay, so Christiana comes in because obviously she wants to show her like, oh my God, thank you, Liam. I have prospered. The fact is that my physical therapy is over, because basically the machines that the merchant who helped set up the machines that they used to treat Christiana and her people and reverse what Goaz and his pirates did. They want to kind of basically, the company that makes them wants to get some of that data back to kind of like make it, and see what they can garner from it. And so it's like, Christiana's just pouring her heart out like, oh, my loyalty, this and that. And he's like, Liam's like, I don't care about your problems. Basically, they want to see like, how well everything's going. She's like, sure. Immediately starts stripping. She's like, look at my body. You can look at it whenever you want to. He's like, I don't want to look at your body. So-and-so wants to look at your body. Guy's like, I don't want to look at your body. The developers just want access to it. Then you have Nias walking in. She's like, oh, let's sell some ships. Wait, here's some other woman trying to seduce him, pushes her out of the way. He doesn't like that. You trying to throw yourself at him. He likes someone who has a combination of innocence and sexy mixed together. Isn't that right? He was like, dude, don't talk about my sexual preferences like you know them. Then you have the lady from the third weapon factory show up, Ulisa being like, yo, I have more ships to sell. He wants to buy them, but he doesn't have the permission to do it because the position his family is currently in. And Nias still being like, no, buy from us, yada, yada, yada. And Brian's only takeaway is, oh my God, look at all these women surrounding Lord Liam. Is like, oh my God, I'm so proud and stuff like that he's being so like into all these women. He's like, shut up, I'm not. Once again, it's so funny considering he's fighting it so much. Like he literally unintentionally has a harem built around him, but it's not the harem he wants, and he's fighting against it so much. We had a whole point of like what he wants from his harem, and he's kind of getting a harem, but it's not the harem he wants, even though it's the harem literally any other protagonist would find themselves in and be perfectly fine with, So I just love that hilarity of that situation and circumstance. Also, Christiana calling out Nias and just constantly having a blade to her throat, like, get away from him, don't you touch him. It's like, once again, very I was about to say tsundere, yandere vibes from Christiana. Like, once again, she's very unhinged, and you add in her, like, obsession and loyalty to Liam, just that's all rolled up. But basically, the Emperor, or I don't know if he was, I can't remember what they referred to him as, the leader of the Empire. I'd assume would be the Emperor, Empire Emperor. Basically, they want to give a medal to Liam for doing all that he did. And so it's kind of dope. He's getting rewarded for it. But then, lo and behold, he has his family show up. Not just his mom and dad, which he didn't even recognize. Because it's like, well, the last time he saw him, he was like 5. And then there's his grandfather and grandmother his grandmother looks extremely young. I'd actually completely forgot about the whole like, all right, like people in this world like age super slow. in the appearance wise, because people in this universe, like just this setting, age like can live for like hundreds of years. I didn't even realize, because I didn't let that even like lapse into my mind. I didn't realize how much time has passed in the series. Apparently, this entire, because like there was earlier time skips, then we had Liam continue to get a little older. Liam's basically 40. No, they're basically saying he's kind of practically 50 at this point, I guess. But it's like, yeah, because he was kind of running things for apparently like 40 years. I was like, oh, I didn't realize just like how much time was passing by around. So that's why I'm like, we don't actually know how long Christiana was like under Goaz and like all that happening, because like they weren't necessarily happening at the same time. So like that could have been decades ago. That was like my confusion of whether those storylines were happening simultaneously or whether there was like a large gap in between them. It seems like there might have been, but it's unclear. I guess that also adds into like the mass development. Once again, considering you live for hundreds of years, 40-ish years, it's slightly a drop in the bucket in the grand scheme of things. You know, it's like, it's basically like maybe like a tenth of their lifespan, you know? So that's just something to kind of be considered. But either way, his family showed up now in the classic, you know, stereotypical situation of, oh, now you've made so much success, you're going to paying off your debt, even with all the pirate treasure he got, even the reward for killing Goaz and taking down his pirates, it's still not enough to pay off their debt. You're like, Jesus Christ, how much debt are we in? Basically, you're in 2 generations of debt because your grandfather sucked and your dad sucked. So, but either way, they're here begging, being like, oh, we came back into your life and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, basically we want you to pay off our debts. Because, I mean, oh, living in the capital is very expensive. It's like, shut up. You didn't want anything to do with Liam when, you know, it's just, they're disgusting and they're annoying. And then also they have the audacity to be like, oh, we're your parents and your grandparents. How dare you keep that doll around? That was fine and everything when you're younger, but you're a full grown man. And Amagi was going to leave, but he was like, no, stay by my side. You guys get out of here. You've done nothing for me. He's like, you'll not get a single penny from me. Get out. But Amagi's like, yeah, but you need to probably pay off their debts. You need to basically form a contract with them, pay off like a portion of their debt if they leave you alone. Because if they're still around, they can harm your reputation. Everything that you've done to build up your family's reputation, they can and will tarnish it. So you need to kind of nip that in the bud. And Liam's like, okay, because he trusts Amagi's a position on that, but he tells Amagi, you're the only family I have. And she's like, yes. So at the same time this is all happening, the guide still popping up being like, no, this shouldn't be happening. Why is this happening? Why is he so successful? Damn it all. And he goes to Liam's family and pollutes their minds to use them in just everything he can. So they're trying to steal the position from Liam, and they're like, right, once we inherited the territory back, the money will be ours to do whatever we want with. In fact, we can hire as many as assassins as we want to kill Liam. In fact, we could like start kind of pull a little bit of an Omni-Man there, like in this case, what's 40 years? I can always start again. Which, you know, interesting parallel considering like the crazy lifespan of a Viltrumite. So there is an interesting parallel of like the lifespans of every being kind of in this universe. And while the guide's doing that dog, which we still don't even get any clarity on that. And I figure we wouldn't get any answer on it, but I'd like to believe eventually Liam will eventually find out about that, and maybe that dog will kind of get reconstituted into some other form and is able to stay by his side, or maybe it just stays in that spiritual form. Once again, I brought it up last episode. We don't know if that's just like the spirit of his dog following him, or there's some higher power that's opposing the guide that's like sending that dog out as a messenger. It could be a combination of two or one or the other, but regardless, I thought it was interesting. It's always just been Liam who's caught glimpses of the dog. In this case, Amagi caught it, and she overhears the conversation with his family, and they try to go to the Emperor, but he's like, nah, I'm not going to do that because Liam's done everything right up until this point, and how could I put you guys back in that position because you didn't keep up with paying off your debts and stuff. For the Emperor, it's more like it's kind of a beneficial situation of like, the better Liam's doing with his leadership, he's paying off his taxes, the more money he's making, the more money's coming back to the Empire. So that's like, why would I jeopardize what's working and benefiting the Empire as a whole and benefiting me? by like working with you charlatans, you backstabbing people that you are. And so he sends them on their way. But it's like, yeah, if anything happens to Liam, it's actually going to be your heads that roll. So keep that in mind. But Amagi had approached the Emperor, which I thought was interesting that, considering like the whole conversation, it's popped up every once in a while, but it is the constant reminder that AIs are not, they are hated, And it's like, yeah, considering like the history there, I think it's fascinating that the Emperor would even listen to Amagi, but it's like, right, she kind of acts as the spokesperson for Liam. She kind of talks on his behalf, but also what she said probably made logical sense. But he does still call her stupid later because, oh, that's why AIs are stupid. He's like, you're up here making a deal that you didn't need to make. I was never going to side with his family because Liam, it benefits me. So here you are trying to crack a deal of, okay, let's use some of that money from Goaz to like pay off the debt and allow him to be able to buy ships. It's not stupid. It's Amagi doing stuff that she believes would benefit. Like she knows how much Liam wants to be able to get those ships. So, but I guess it's like the Emperor's probably like, I would have probably done that regardless just to keep Liam happy. But it's like just to smooth things over. But it's like him just kind of badmouthing her and being like, oh, you're so stupid, not realizing like you. But it's also like because she wasn't acting logically, there was emotion behind her decision. There's the logic of, hey, I want to protect Liam, but she also let her emotions get the best of her. And I think that's also what sparked her decision later on when she's with Liam and she's like, yeah, I got to leave your side. But she's like, oh yeah, go ahead. You deserve a vacation. You need to take a break every once in a while. But she's like, no, I'm going to leave your side because the 3 laws. That one, I should never put you in danger, but I am putting you in danger. The longer I'm staying with you, the more of a bad reputation it's causing you, and that's going to cause more threats to come after you. She saw it herself, like, they were money grabbing people anyway. They would have always come after Liam, but they were using her as ammunition against Liam. Like, everything else is flying on all cylinders. But she was always going to be that asterisk that they would ever always be able to use as ammunition against them, no matter how good everything else is. I was always going to be that X factor they could use against you. So it's like, right, I'm leaving, and it's been a wonderment. Like, AIs are not liked at all, but you've treated me like a human for the past 40 years that I've served you, and I've enjoyed it, and I've been happy about it. And Liam is trying to fight her on everything. Like, right, the second law, you have to obey me. But she's like, yes, but the second law is kind of null and void when me breaking the first law. So I can't, and it's the AI element of like, I'm trying to like, I'm being so like, you should have like worded things a lot better if you were trying to prevent this from happening. But then Liam's like, are you doing this trying to run away? Because he's like, the third law is you must protect yourself as well. And it's like, is that what you're doing in this situation? You must not like endanger yourself or something like that. And it's like, is that what you're doing? You're protecting your feelings because in your heart and your like, do you like want to leave? And she's like, thinking about that decision made like her core processors like overheat. And then she starts tearing up and she's like, it is a lot because even as an AI, she is a lot more human than she'd ever willing to admit. Even when she was talking to the other maids, making an excuse by like, oh, I'm staying by Liam's side because he asked me to. And like I said, I think everything's been culminating, and this was just kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, essentially. The situation with his family just kind of made that even clearer. But I think she probably also like wanted to use this as an excuse of like, you're in a good position where like I can comfortably leave you alone. But then and I thought Liam's ultimate, like how he got Amagi to stay by his side, I felt like that would have been the obvious answer, and it ended up being how he approaches it. Like, right, all you have to do is make her realize you not being here is putting me in danger, because it's like, he's like, well, then I'm gonna drink a whole bunch of alcohol, I'm gonna let my reputation tank, and I'm gonna put myself in dangerous positions. Oh, the only way to prevent that from me being in danger, you have to stay by my side, won't you? And it's like, yeah, like, just point out that like I will be in way more danger without you. You are my person I rely on the most and who I trust the most. And so her hand is forced. He's like, yeah, you'll stay by my side to make sure none of that happens. And she's like, yes. And he's like, yeah, you're the only person that's been by my side this entire time. She's like, well, there's Brian. He's like, stop it. No, we're not talking about Brian here because that's a completely different situation. And she's like, yes, I understand. And it's a really, really sweet thing. Once again, especially considering the life he came from, it is sad that he doesn't even really think about his daughter at all, because the only time we saw her was in episode 1. Like anytime we caught up with the guide and it turned out like, oh, the guy she was having, his boss that she was having an affair with, he got arrested for like some tax stuff and embezzlement, got caught for that, and she's just kind of alone with her daughter. It's kind of sad. I'd love to know if in the future, if anything from that world will bleed over into this world, other than Liam's dog. But like, would his ex or his daughter come back? Like, could she be like reincarnated as his actual daughter in this universe or something like that? Could his ex be reincarnated into this world? I don't know. You feel like the guide would probably do something like that and make her like a main antagonist. Once again, I don't know where the story goes in the future, but I'm like, that could be a thread you could pull on. But like, because like nothing from that world has kind of bled over. Be interesting if you brought like his ex-boss into this world and somehow he found out about that. Because Liam does have all his memories from that world, so the guide could use that to his advantage if he wants. Because he's not gone, like, even by the end. Liam's thankfulness and everything is hurting him, but it didn't seem like enough to kill him. So I think he is going to be probably like the main antagonist of the series, constantly trying to wreck Liam. Seems like that'll probably be like his him going forward. But yeah, like the more he tries to destroy Liam, the more Liam comes out on top, and the more Liam's is thankful of him, till a point Liam will probably ultimately end up killing him by proxy of like, oh, I'm being so thankful. I'm also curious, will Yasushi ever pop back up into Liam's life? Especially because like Liam's not made it public about like, I don't, because there was that report, when he was bragging about his master, but I don't remember if he ever said Yasushi by name. But he's like, oh, I got to get further and further away. But it's like, I wonder would he ever come back into Liam's life? Probably very much like his family tried to, but Yasushi will probably succeed because Liam wholeheartedly trusts Yasushi. So just a beautiful, like I said, wrap up where it's just like Liam, who had everything taken from him, here he is with everything. He's got a family with Amagi, got people who serve and believe in him and prospering, and yeah, life is good and things are going to continue forward. So just a nice, beautiful wrap up to everything. Like I said, it coming full circle of he wasn't able to kind of get proper revenge against, even though karma came to bite them in the ass, he didn't get proper revenge against his family in his original life, but he was able to kind of get revenge on this family who tried to abandon him and put everything on him. So I think that's the last we've heard of them. They'll never rear their faces again. So like I said, just a nice, beautiful wrap up. So I brought it up earlier. I've been having this conversation a lot lately about, because there's a lot of anime kind of in a similar situation to this wrapping up. So there's been no confirmation about whether or not there is a new season. To be fair, this finale just dropped, but it does feel like hey, this might be a one and done. But, I'll probably leave it as a finale title-wise, but I could always go back and retroactively change it to a season 1 finale like a lot of other stuff if I need to. But this is where things currently stand. So there's potential, obviously, for way more story, because I looked it up to see, from what I was reading, apparently this first season is pretty much the entire first volume, which I was like, oh, that's interesting. But I guess like the pacing of like a light novel versus like a manga, because like you can really tear through like how much of a manga, but that's also like how much are you condensing and stuff. So for it to only be the first volume must mean like, but it seems like that's how I guess it just depends on like the length of the novel versus like the length of the chapters of a manga, and how many mangas are in a single, how many chapters are in a single volume and stuff like that. So yeah, so it's interesting. But for what I was seeing, like, apparently there's bits and pieces taken from Volume 2, but mainly this is a pure adaptation of Volume 1. So I was looking up, there are currently 10 volumes of the anime, of the light novel. So there's plenty to, like, go. If there is no future season, there's at least plenty more story to read. Like I said, there are 10 published novels currently at the time of recording this. I believe it was like, I think volume 9, I think it's only up to volume 8 that's been translated so far into English, but I want to say like I was reading that volume 9, the digital translation comes out like next month, and then like there's a print version of the adaptation coming out in August, and then like the 10th volume isn't getting a translation until like January 20th of next year. So, but and also volume 11, in Japanese is coming out. Was it next month, I believe, or something like that too? So yeah, just kind of laying that out there. If you are someone that's like, hey, I'm interested in checking out the light novel, because you're just like, I got to know where the series goes forward. So there is at least that, where there's like, okay, even if the anime doesn't continue, at least the light novel's there for us to kind of continue to see where the story goes beyond this, what other adventures and situations and people come into Liam's life. Because obviously he's only had this is on like his second time interacting with Elisa, so how that balances with Neos, both of them trying to sell stuff to him, but then there's also like the Christiana not liking Neos at all, trying to throw herself at Liam. So just all that, I'd love to kind of continue that and see where those relationships and dynamics go, and whether the characters, like I said, find their way into Liam's life, and where things go with the guide as well as his dog. So yeah, like I said, this seeming to be all we got. I'm very glad I've gotten to know this story. So that's really all I wanted to kind of talk about. But till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.